Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sarah McBride. I'm the National Press Secretary at the Human Rights Campaign. And it is so wonderful to be here with so many incredible parents. This event marks HRC's start of Transgender Week of Awareness, which is a week-long commemoration of the progress of the transgender community, the challenges that we face, and our unfinished work. And I think, obviously, for many of us, we're a little bit more focused on the challenges and unfinished work ahead after last week's election. And there are probably no better examples of the stakes of this election, the stakes of our progress and continued efforts than the parents who are here today. They are incredible advocates. They are loving parents. They're wonderful people. And it's actually just wonderful to have them all in one space. They all were talking beforehand, and they were saying that they feel like they knew each other so well from Facebook and different groups, but some of them had actually never met in person. So it's wonderful to have them together in one place. This council, we had started to organize well before the election, but it is more important now than ever as we work to defend our progress, as we work to continue to change hearts and minds, as we work to move the ball forward in localities and states and at the federal level, regardless of what comes our way over the next several years. We're going to hear a little bit from them. We also are really honored to have Congressman Mike Honda, the chair of the Transgender Equality Task Force on the Hill and the grandfather of a beautiful, wonderful transgender daughter. With that, I'm going to actually turn it over to my partner in crime, Ellen KAHN, who will speak a little bit more about the council and introduce Congressman Honda. Ellen?
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, and it's lovely to see all of you here. And again, just the warmth of the parents who are here, we can really feel it in the room. It's important to mention that this Parents for Transgender Equality Council, which is officially live today, includes other parents who couldn't be here today. But we have representation from about 6 of the families who are part of this council. I know that parents can change the world. I've seen it every day. We do it by advocating for our children around issues related to their safety, their health, their education, their well-being. And we know for transgender children that having support and love from our parents is really the essential key to our success. But it's not enough sometimes. There's a lot of hostility and a lot of discrimination that beckons beyond the safe doors and walls of our homes. The parents who are here today are doing everything they can to tell their stories and to change hearts and minds so that what they've created in their homes, a place of love and support, can be spread to the larger world so that their children and all transgender people can feel safe and welcome and included. And I believe that there are no more powerful voices than parents. Can move mountains, can sit in front of an unfriendly legislator and talk about their family and find that human connection. Not only are these folks doing what parents do every day, which is, trying to get their kids to school, and maybe it's college applications or managing to get them to soccer, or just dealing with the messy rooms and all those things that everyday parents do. They're also stretching to, at sometimes some risk to their families and their privacy, be there for other parents. Many of them are involved with their local PFLAG chapters and providing that direct support to other parents, creating safe space for other parents. They're making change in their school districts. They're making change in their local pediatric hospital. They are going well beyond just that micro advocacy of their own children. So we want to thank and acknowledge these loving and courageous parents, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing more from them in just a few minutes. To start us off, we are joined today by Congressman Mike Honda from California. He has been a champion for the LGBT community, both in his role as a member of Congress right now, but also for many years in the California State Assembly. And as Sarah mentioned, not only is he a very effective legislator who leads on LGBTQ equality, He's also the proud grandfather of a trans child, and his daughter Michelle is part of our council, but not here today. So I know that he will channel Michelle's passion and commitment when he speaks to you this morning. So please give a warm welcome to Representative Mike Honda.
Thank you, Ellen. And that's a tall order to channel my daughter. I don't think there's a place wide enough to channel all her efforts. My name is Mike Honda. I'm the grandfather of Melissa, who at 18 months said, "I'm a girl." And at almost 3 years, she says, "I'm a girl and my name is Melissa and this is how you spell it." And then when she turned 7, our family, led by my daughter, Michelle, said, "We're on the journey now." She was convinced that the consistency and persistency and the, what are the 3 words? Persistence, consistent, and insistence convinced her that this is the pathway to go. And as I listened to my daughter speak in different places, she fills in the gaps that I didn't know about during her journey with Melissa. And she talks about the things that she wished she understood better, but during that entire journey, she was always open and loving and accepting, but also having to deal with certain kinds of issues that we've been taught. And so in her explanation of her journey, it's helped me. And in this journey of mine, I've been helped quite a bit with organizations such as this, such as HRC, such as PFLAG, when I was on school boards and things like that, where parents were teaching policymakers and other adults how to understand certain things that are not within their own experience. And today, we have technology that's so pervasive that we can use technology and our own personal stories to go out and teach. And I think the kind of challenges that we have are still very basic, as we have realized when we started our own journey, and that it saves lives. And it's about creating a new normalcy. And it's about redefining all these terminologies we've learned or been taught since birth. Everything from colors, pink and blue, to the binary understanding of gender from man and woman, and then spreading that out and understood the whole issue of gender spectrum. And so my vocabulary has changed. So as a parent, as a grandparent, I've been trying to find different ways to share the things that I learn as I learn them, and be as available to other people, more specifically with Asian Americans, because our community is very, sometimes very difficult to work with, or for us to work with our own selves, because we have so many internalized kinds of notions about ourselves, about what gender is all about. So it's a journey that's well worth taking. And I guess the area that I'm most concerned about is prepubescent, that age group. Because of my granddaughter, Melissa, I just want to be able to be helpful in laying that groundwork and that future for her in ways that will make her life in transition as safe and easy as possible. And I think that sharing our stories and listening to you, I've already learned this morning some of the things that needs to be done. But as a policymaker, I just want to say that we need to engage our policymakers to take leadership roles and to understand and learn. They don't have to have 100% understanding. I didn't. All I knew was there was a responsibility to do something. And when we established the Transgender Equality Task Force, we had 2 meetings. And the first meeting was about the kinds of experiences people have had, and they shared it. And the second one was in San Jose, where we had a lot of young people there. And you never know what's going to happen as a result of talking and being public about issues. And it turned out a few weeks later, one high school, by the efforts of the young people, created a situation in their high school that the bathroom facilities will be all gender. And they passed it as a student body. Then they went to the school board and asked them to sustain that. And so I think the kinds of work that we are about to enter into as a parents of transgender children and searching this thing that we call equity it will be earth-shattering, but at the same time, as a grandfather, I just want us to be able to say to our children as they leave home, have a good day, and I'll see you when you get back. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and Melissa is so lucky to have you as a grandfather. The trans community is so, you are very lucky to have her as a grandchild, and the trans community is so lucky to have you as a friend and an ally. Now I have the pleasure of turning it over to our parents. And one of the things I think it's important to remember as we move forward is that the change that is irreversible are the hearts that have been opened and the minds that have been changed. And that has happened because so many families have come forward and told their stories. So many parents have come before the country, come before lawmakers, come before their communities to share their stories, to educate the public a little bit more about what it means to be transgender, and standing shoulder to shoulder with transgender people, demonstrating that we are loved, we are worthy, and we are equal. And as someone who I think is really sort of aware of this historic movement that we're a part of, and looking at these parents, I can't help but think about generations from now, a young transgender kid who will learn about this struggle for justice and equality in their textbooks and never have to know what this progress feels like to us because they will never know anything different. And that will be because of the parents in this room, because of transgender people across this country, because of families in homes around the world. And so with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to VANESSA and J.R. Ford, the first parents who will be sharing their stories with us.
Good morning, everybody. I'm used to being on this.
Oh yeah, it's our good side.
It's my good side. My name is Vanessa Ford, and I am a resident here in Washington, D.C. with my husband, J.R. Ford, and our two wonderful children. We have a 7-year-old son, Ronnie, our firstborn, and we have a 5.5-year-old daughter, Ellie. And Ellie is who brings us here today to tell our story. And I'm not the crier of this couple, and Mike's already gotten to me. And I think what I want to share is my part in this story and then turn it over to my husband, who's so amazing at sharing his part. So our daughter Ellie is only 5.5. I got her out of the house this morning with her brother. It was not easy. They were grumpy. So she is like every other little kindergartner, and my son is like every other little first grader. When Ellie was born, we were the Fords with lots of friends. I was a teacher in DC for 14 years, and our kids were only 17 months apart. So we were always known as the Fords, the two little boys. Are they twins? Are they twins? Are they twins? Nope. And around age 2, Ellie would tantrum getting dressed every morning, and we thought maybe she has a sensory disorder. We're not sure. So we started putting her in what we now see as pretty gender-neutral clothes. 3, she would dress up in dresses, and we thought we were so progressive, letting our son wear dresses everywhere that we thought at the time he would go. And we would also notice that we had a very taciturn child who would not go near people, would hide behind their hands, would not hug or talk with people. And when our child at that time would put on those dress-up clothes, we'd say to each other, man, can never take that off. We have a child who's so much easier with these clothes on. And so that went on for about a year. And around her 4th birthday, we had an Elsa, thank God for Frozen. I mean, Frozen really brought her out. An Elsa birthday party, an Elsa and Lightning McQueen birthday party, and our child, it coincided with our housewarming. So we had about 100 people in our house. We know a lot of people here in DC. And we had this beautiful Elsa cake, and our child was in this Elsa nightgown with a tiara and Lightning McQueen slippers. And after this long day of so much love and celebration, we were going up the stairs, and I know exactly where I was. And I said, "You are my favorite princess boy." And she stopped, and she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Mom, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl in my heart and my brain." And I said, "Let's go brush your teeth. Good night. Like, it's time for bed." And that started our journey. And immediately, we came into this journey with resources. Our child is young, and there are thousands of families who've come before us. And so when we reached out, we got to the people you're going to hear from today. They started this for us. And I struggled. My husband did not. And I always love hearing from him what our child means to him and how he's grown and what it's meant to us to have our beautiful child in our lives. So I'm going to let JR speak about our children.
Thanks. So as Mike and Vanessa were talking, I was thinking about, like, what are some good adjectives to help describe Ellie and our kids and our family and our community. And the first thing that came to me was courage, bravery, knowing that we have a community out there who is supportive. And, you know, Ellie taught me a lot of things over the past year and a half about myself, about how much I could love. I thought that there was a threshold in my love for our kids and our family, but she ultimately told me, or she ultimately showed me that my love is exponential. It's unconditional. It's about treating a human being equally and fairly, regardless of where they come from, who they are. And so, you know, over the last year, she also taught me about self-care, because her being able to tell us about who she is, that took an enormous amount of bravery for a 4-year-old. And I'm a 30-something liberal dad. I'm in my late 30s, so I'm not old. So. But she taught me about feeling my emotions, being in this situation, being current, and just about like just being yourself, just being who you are. And I know that we all come from different backgrounds and different environments, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And if Ellie can be the beacon in our family to make us tighter and to help uplift us, to be a voice to those who don't have a voice, then that's what we need. We need more families. We need an increased level of urgency now that things are starting to change politically. We need more families, a tighter community, so that we can continue to provide voices to those who can't. So in conclusion, I think that between Vanessa and I, we want to be that beacon for families who don't have a voice, who don't want to be the voice. We want to help to provide a safe environment for those who don't have it. So.
And we're very lucky. We live here in Washington, D.C. We have every support network possible, including policies and laws that protect our child. She is not going to feel this. But Jay and I, last Wednesday morning, woke up and we knew our bubble was gone because she's safe now, but the ramifications of what happened last week put that at risk. And so our narrative the last year, if you've seen it, we've been very public. Our narrative has been, you can do this. Look, you don't lose everything. Everyone comes together. Our marriage is stronger. Our kids are happier. We've had all the support. And so I know there are people out there watching right now who are pushing that like angry button on Facebook Live. And I implore to you to think about the kids in your life. I implore to you to imagine that what we're saying is your child, and take your finger off and start to learn something, because we need you to keep our child safe and alive, and we're not giving up. So we're out there, we're coming. So thank you for having us.
Well, I'm not sure who was the emotional one or not there, but I'll agree with you. I rarely can talk about this without getting emotional. And in some respects, I've stopped trying because this is emotional. It should be. But let me say first that I am so humbled to be here among such amazing, strong advocates for our children everywhere, for our LGBT community, and especially for our transgender and gender-expansive community. The time couldn't be better for the Human Rights Campaign to bring together this diverse group of families to tell the truth about our kids. My wife, Sarah, and I will be the first to tell you that we are not born advocates. In fact, I'm ashamed that it has taken me this long to come out and support strongly this community. For us, it took having a transgender kid to really open our eyes. And that's a message I want to send to people, is that I understand if you don't have a transgender kid, this may be very tough to wrap your head around. I wish I could give you my kid, and sometimes for a week or two, so that you could get to know him. Because I am convinced that if people could get to know a transgender kid and their family, the fears, the insecurities they have about whether their children will be harmed by giving these kids rights, by allowing them to use bathrooms they identify with, by sharing teams with them, by going to school with them, by working with them, they would go away. And I am convinced that they will open their hearts and minds. I am convinced of this. Let me tell you a little bit about how our story began, though. At around 2 years old, our son, Jack Kai, told us that I'm a boy. And normally this wouldn't really be an issue, except that we had named him Jacqueline and assigned him female at birth. So we went through the process that so many thousands of others have, millions, as we tried to convince ourselves that we had a really powerful town boy, and we went through all the good things that people do to try to show him that, you know what, you can be a girl and do anything a boy can do. So we go and show him pictures of female astronauts and firemen and policemen, and we say, see, you can do all these things. And he said, that's true, I'm a boy. So we went through everything that folks go through, the clothes, which didn't feel right, the hair, which was too long for a boy, the names that weren't right for a boy. But what I can't emphasize enough is also the body that did not belong to a boy. This is when you realize this is not a phase. This is not some small preference. And I don't have the words to describe how much despair our son was in during this time of learning. Because like many others, we didn't know much about transgender kids. So we learned, we went to experts, we read everything we could. There wasn't great material out there, but we saw it. And we saw that if we did not respect our son's identity, it was going to be a matter of life and death. It was not a choice. It is never a choice for these kids. It is never a choice for anyone in the LGBTQ community. We have seen this truth. And what I tell people is, now that I've seen the truth, I can't unsee it. Now that I've learned to see the world through my transgender son's eyes, I cannot unlearn that. And so we tell our story. Well, our son entered kindergarten as a boy. As soon as we started respecting his needs for boy pronouns, it was like a light switch. The despair, the anguish, the horrible mornings of trying to get him out the door to preschool, it all went away. Now, I realize that may not happen in every case, but it happens in a lot of cases. All the OCD and sensory type issues that we thought were manifesting themselves, they went away. Our son is 8 years old now, and he's very happy. And we realize that we're very, very lucky. Our school is amazingly supportive, top to bottom. We say we have superheroes like our principal, Craig McCullough, who when we first came to him and said, we have a transgender son, he didn't really understand what it meant either, but when he learned, he said, this will not be a problem. This will not be a problem. Because my job is to make a safe and inclusive environment for every child. His sisters, Sydney and Jessie, our family, we've been lucky again. They've all been supportive. My niece here today, we can't thank them enough, but not every child has that support. That's why we must educate. And I will say this, our eyes were opened up much more than to the needs of the transgender and LGBTQ community. And this is what I'd like to tell folks. You don't have a transgender kid, maybe you don't have a marginalized child at all. It's going to be tough for me to rent out Jack so that you can get that experience. Though I consider it at times. But I'm asking you anyway to open up your hearts and minds, even though I don't really have a right to do that. I had the benefit of having a transgender kid. You don't. But I'm going to ask this anyway, because I need you to be better than me. I need you to be more empathetic than I was. And I'm going to give you a gift for doing that. It's a gift of joy. Because if you do this, you will find joy more than anything you've ever experienced in your life. Now, you will find pain too. Probably more pain than you've experienced in your life. Because you will see the world through these kids' eyes. But I ask that you take this on because your lives will take on new meaning. I am so grateful to the Human Rights Campaign and to everyone here and all those at home who have been so supportive. That's why I'm confident. I know, no matter what the administration, no matter what the outcome of this election, our mission has not changed. We are fighting for equality. We always will. We're fighting for these kids who don't have a voice. for all those kids out there who I know are listening, who all have a dream, do not despair. We will not stop fighting for you, and it will get better. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is JOANNE Lee. I'm a mother of 2 children. I was born and raised with a Christian upbringing in Korea. Korean culture is very conservative, binary, and strict like other Asian countries. We don't talk about LGBT. It was taboo to talk about it. My children were born as female biologically. My first child came out as a transgender in June of 2014, right after high school graduation. My second child, Skylar, came out as a transgender and queer 2 months later. I was in shock and didn't accept them as my transgender sons. I made a progress, but it was too slow. I had an endless amount of love for my son, but I didn't speak up or stand up for him. I didn't see his heart. I just focused on his gender identity and sexual orientation. So I lost the chance to love and support him. September 28, 2015, it was heartbroken, saddest day and turning point of my life. Because Skylar took his own life from depression. He was 16 years old and fierce racial and LGBTQ justice activist. Skylar wrote an article, How to Dismantle School-to-Prison Pipeline in Power in Partnership. It is a resource for why racial justice and LGBTQ justice need to be a part of the same conversation to be truly successful. Skylar wrote, we cannot separate the conversation between racial justice and LGBTQ justice when our oppression and liberation are interconnected with another. It was published just before his death and highly praised, but I didn't know his publication and his activities. I was not involved in my son's life. I didn't understand his immeasurable pain and depression as a transgender. Now LGBTQ youth are aware of intersectionality. Also, Black Lives Matter starts to support LGBTQ community. LGBTQ justice has Black Lives Matter. And Black Lives Matter is LGBTQ justice. Before, I didn't understand what it is like to be a transgender and issues they have. Finally, I understood it, but it cost my child's life. From Skylar, I learned how family acceptance and love is important. It is the only way to save the lives of transgender. So I promised myself, Skylar's life means something, and save the lives of transgender on his funeral day. Skylar's life was beautiful. He impacted so many lives and changed the life of so many. Transgender life is beautiful. and loved for, not only when they are dead. I'm a nurse, but nothing prepared me for this tragedy. My heart is broken. I'm grieving the loss of my child, who will always be 16 years old. I'd like to help the public to understand that transgender children are not by choices, but born with it. All communities want a better future for children, equal opportunity, dignity, safe environment, freedom, and equality for their children. We have one goal. Why are we so separated and suffering? We need to unify and find a point regardless of religion, race, skin color, gender identity, and sexual orientation. Humans have rights for voicing who they are and choosing happiness. We need to give them this equal opportunity. Please join me to fight against oppression of LGBTQ children. Please give them opportunity to live, fulfill their goals, and save people and contribute to this country. Make them proud to be citizens of America like other children and people. I am touched by Skylar's words. It is not justice if we leave behind members of our community. It is not justice if we ignore interconnected oppression of those who share community with. Thank you.
Good morning. May I just say, our Zeem knew Skylar and loved Skylar. So I guess it's appropriate that we follow you today. I'm Ia McMillan Porter, and this is my husband, Dr. Lewis Porter, and we are the proud, well, sometimes, no, proud parents of a transgendered young young man who is a college freshman, yay, and a social activist named Zeem Porter. Zeem, I don't know when Zeem actually knew that he was transgendered. He worked through a lot of things and then shared with us that he really felt that he was male. A few months later, Zeem ended up sharing it with the world. I'm not sure we were quite ready for that. 3 years ago, Zeem was asked to testify in Minnesota. We live in Minneapolis for the Minnesota High School Athletic Conference or League to testify for transgendered youth who wanted to play in the sport on the team that matched their gender identity. I was on the road because I'm a recruiter for a college, and I get a call in South Dakota that our kid's going to be on the 5 o'clock news. And I said, okay, so I watched it, and then I spoke to Lewis and Zeem at home, and they shared with me that MSNBC had wanted to do a remote transmission the next morning, and it was going to go nationwide. And I remember being afraid for my child. And I told Zeem, I said, honey, you don't have to do this. And Zim said, Mom, I remember, ever since I can remember growing up, hearing about Papa, my father, who was a career military man, and all the work that Papa did to make sure there was equality in the military. And all the places that you guys lived, I went to 5 different high schools, all the places that you lived where Nana, my mother, was doing race relations work. She said, Mom, you're a diversity trainer, and so is Daddy. This is what we do. Okay, baby, this is what we do. And Zim also was asked to be on our governor's anti-bullying task force for 2 years, along with another student who was a year older, an 11-year-old. And that took place shortly after Zim was on television. And I was frightened at the amount of hate mail that came to these children. What kind of grown-up sends hate mail to an 11-year-old? And that was very, very scary for me. But I have to say, shortly afterwards, we also got in a lot of support. Zim's school stepped up right away. I got to give a shout out to the Mom Squad and the Odd Squad, who just let us know right away that they were in our corner, and it wasn't all ugliness that was going to be put toward our family.
You know, one of the things that happened was I was very hurt by the few people who were not accepting and were very judgmental and had a lot of negative things to say. But then I realized that it was about 2 or 3 people in our circle, and that scores of other people were supportive and loving and trying really hard to understand, including and especially the elders. And if any of you have Southern elders and know about Southern Black elders, for them to understand was really coming a long way. So that made us really happy. I'm more encouraged by the positive. I never will forget when Zim first came out as queer to me, before Zim came out as trans. And we were in the car, and Zim shared this with me, and I wasn't ready for it. But I kind of always knew that Zim would throw some curveballs. I've written about that. And so I'm thankful that the first thing that came out of my mouth was very silly and shallow. As I mentioned, I'm from the South. I said, well, I wonder if they'll still let you be a debutante. And Zim goes, Dad, that's really shallow. We had a good laugh off that. And then the next thing that came out of my mouth was quoting a Sade song, your daddy's love comes with a lifetime guarantee. And that was the most important thing, and that has stood forth and brought us a mighty long way. I know that at this time we have a lot to be discouraged about, but I'm encouraged because I just attended the Facing Race Conference, and I saw people standing up for gender equality, LGBTQIA equality, racial equality, immigrant equality, and I saw a solidarity there that I have not seen before. So I think that some of the events, recent events, have only served to make us stronger. I just want to say that it's such an honor to be Zim's dad, and people sometimes say that and I, oh, you all are such good parents. And I say, well, we just kind of parents. What else can a parent do but love and protect and stand up for their child? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is DESHANNA NEAL. I am from Delaware, and that's it. Oh, no. I have 4 children, and I have been with my husband for quite a long time. And our firstborn, Trinity, is a transgender girl. What many wouldn't know is that she transitioned when she was 4 years old back in 2007, and she is now 13. Being on this journey for almost a decade has changed us as a family in a way that I don't think many families who do not have transgender children could ever imagine. If you ever want to know what it truly means to be humble and authentic, meet my Trinity. there were no books or websites or anything back in 2007 to guide us. And we faced some experts telling us my child was the way she was because I was a stay-at-home mom and because my husband was not man enough. And it was hard. And yet, you know, it took one gender therapist who had never worked with a child. Trinity was her first, who told us we had to make a decision. A happy little girl or a dead little boy. And you know, you look at a 3.5-year-old, you can't imagine that that could possibly happen, but it can. And so we went and bought a My Little Pony dress. And we also bought a car for the other child, because heaven forbid we don't get something else. And I will never forget the day she came out in that dress and I saw my child, who I thought I lost. And here we are, almost 10 years later, having gone through losing family for a 1.5 years before they finally saw her too. And when you see her, I'm telling you, she will bring you around. Having me quit jobs to homeschool and going down to one income and going below the poverty level for our children, for her. And now recently, as her body was about to change and her anxiety, we fought so hard to keep away coming back because she thought she was gonna grow a beard like daddy, and realizing I had to fight Medicaid to help my child. And the first time I called them after she was denied for puberty blockers, the first thing that came out of their mouth when they heard my name, like, oh, by the way, we do not serve transgender children. And I said, well, get on board because you're going to. And for 8 months, I fought. I connected with Sarah McBride, and I would not give up. And I went from mama bear to, as my daughter puts it, a mama hyena. And after 8 months, with great support, my daughter became the first minor child to be covered by Medicaid for puberty blockers. And I continue to fight, because in doing that, to help her and other children, I was then to receive a social worker at my house 2 times a year to make sure she was psychologically okay. And that really angered me, because there's nothing in this world that would make me hurt my children. Their happiness is my life. And for parents out there who are scared from these results, like I am with you, who are using this fear to possibly halt your child's authenticity, I want to share with you a dream my daughter had recently that told me no matter who tried to stop us from hearing her and who tries to stop her now, always be there, because you don't realize how much of a hero you are. She had a nightmare that she was being chased by monsters in a city, and she was alone, and she didn't know where to turn, and she was scared, and she was surrounded. And then they got scared, and the monsters ran away, and she didn't know why until she turned and she saw me holding out my hand. And I scared them away, and I told her, Trinity, what have I always taught you? To be brave, because I'll always guide you home. You don't have to be scared. Nothing's gonna get through me. And I did, I guide her home. And if you have questions because you're scared as a parent, what do? I've been down this road for almost 10 years. I will guide you home too, so you can be there for your child and fight the people who may want to take their rights away. Do not let them go from being a mama, a papa bear, to being a mama and a papa hyena. I can assure you, they're scary. And my final thought on this is, I didn't have this community. I had to listen with my heart. And I am so grateful I do now, because I know she is going to become this beautiful young woman who will not have to fear. Because if something was to happen to me, she will always be protected. And I am truly grateful. So, thank you.
Hello. I am Debbie Jackson, and I think I'm the last parent to speak today, and I did not come with prepared words because I knew that once I started listening to all of these other moms and dads, that everything that was rewritten would completely go out the window, because I am so touched and moved and relate to every one of these stories. And I promised I wasn't going to cry, and I didn't walk up here with tissue, and I'm already getting to the point where I'm going to cry and try to get through. I come here from Kansas City, Missouri, and just to give a little geography lesson, because this throws people off. Yes, Kansas City, Missouri, but we're right on the state line of Kansas. When I drive out of my neighborhood, I drive into Kansas. So I get to deal with conservative, sometimes really anti-LGBT legislative ideas in 2 states, not just one. And then we also have the national situation that brings us together. And the HRC does the amazing work here in Washington, D.C. on all of our behalves across the country. The reason that I didn't want to come with prepared words is because I knew that I would relate to each of the parents' stories. Hearing Ellie say, "I'm a girl in my heart and mind," because my daughter told me that when she was 4. Hearing Peter say that they didn't intend to become advocates and that it was an accident is also part of our story, because we never expected to be speaking like this because we were afraid. My family is very conservative, has been lifelong Republicans. We're Southern Baptists. I hail from Alabama. We're not really known for being the most progressive and LGBT supportive communities. And when my daughter started showing some gender nonconformity, because we were living in Kansas City, we had some pretty progressive friends, and they thought that we were amazing parents by letting a boy wear pink shoes and a headband with glitter on it. But when she made it clear to us that it wasn't just about having a little gender nonconforming expression in her choice of clothes, that the identity, who she is in her heart and mind is a little girl, suddenly the people who thought that we were so brave and amazing and progressive didn't quite know what to do with us. We lost our friends. We pretty much broke ties with our family. And for the next year or so, we were completely alone. And In the 5 years that it's been since she socially transitioned, we have had a new amazing community of people around us. We have an amazing chosen family, and we have some amazing friends who are supporting us right now. My husband, who is amazingly supportive, even though he's not usually in the media, so people always question that. He is, as another parent mentioned too, for him it was a matter of having a living, happy, healthy daughter rather than a dead son. When Avery was 4, she did try to kill herself. We were driving down the highway, and she unbuckled her car seat harness. And my son, thankfully, was next to her and started yelling at me, "Mom, Mom, Avery's trying to die," because she had unbuckled and was pulling on the car door handle. And knowing what that felt like, that a 4-year-old was that desperate to be affirmed, should give you an indication that this is something that is so internal and it's so pure and it cannot be denied, that we do not have a right as a parent or as society to impose our own views of gender onto anyone. People know who they are. They need to be acknowledged and validated and supported. I have so many stories going through my mind from all of these other parents and sharing the similarities and all of the emotions right now that I can hardly even come up with words to just say that I am honored and amazed to be in the room with them. They all spoke so eloquently. And I think that is what strikes me about this council and what HRC is doing the most. We had started to make some amends with our family. They started to refer to Avery with the right pronouns, and everything was going really well until this last summer, when all of the bills about bathroom access started coming up, and when all the anti-LGBT rhetoric started coming up. And when they came back and said, well, you know, I kind of agree with that. I don't want the men in dresses in the bathrooms. And it's really just kind of gone downhill ever since, so our family is feeling broken and hurt once again. We felt so isolated that until we started publicly talking a couple of years ago, in our own community, we had not met any other transgender children. And we have the pioneers here, the people who were supporting their kids back when there was no Google, because Google saved me, because it brought the few resources that were online available to us 5 years ago. But DESHANNA and I were talking. Trinity transitioned in 2007, and that's the year Avery was born. I can't imagine the strength that it took for her to support Trinity the way that she did. And all of the parents that are in this room with me are my inspiration, and they're my rock. Because I know that we aren't alone. I know that the visibility is what's making a difference for us to keep going, but also for all of those other families out there and all those other kids out there who see our visibility and they reach out knowing that they're not alone. To all the people who are out there watching today and listening, the one thing that I want you to note is the diversity that's here. We have all parts of the country. We have all religious backgrounds. We have skin color, ethnicity, nationality, liberal to conservative ideologies represented. And to anyone who still has doubts about supporting the LGBTQ community and the trans community specifically, please notice our kids are your classmates and your kids' friends. They're your kids' teammates on soccer. They might be in your Girl Scout or Boy Scout troop. We, the families, are your neighbors. We're your coworkers. We're doing our shopping right next to you. We're going to the same bank. We are trick-or-treating with our kids just like you are. We're trying to get them to take a bath and actually use soap when they do it. We are sitting next to you in houses of worship, and we're wanting you to not reject us and to do what all religious principles say to do, which is to love one another. And I thank everyone for being here together and showing us that love. And I would like to remind the people who have been elected into office that we are also your constituents, and our children are your constituents. We've been fighting for a long time to have the equality and the protections that we have now. Don't take them away. Please help us guaranteeing that our children have the same rights as everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing your stories, for speaking from a place of such vulnerability and authenticity. I know you have touched so many people here and watching online, and there is so much more work to do. So let's roll up our sleeves, let's get ready, and let's continue this fight. Thank you all for coming out.